Invited to a sinister dinner. Hidden truths revealed at a haunted reunion of the secrecy. Jessica's heart raced as she crumpled the invitation in her hands. It was supposed to be an exciting reunion, but the eerie aura of Ashbourne Manor loomed over her like a dark cloud. She remembered the stories whispered in school halls about the mansion, the curses, the ghosts, the tragedies that haunted its decaying walls. Yet, beneath her anxiety stirred a sense of thrill. Old friends, nostalgia mingling with the sharp tang of fear. She glanced at Ethan, her bright-eyed 7-year-old, and swallowed the doubt. She couldn't let him see her worry, couldn't shatter his innocent hopes of her rediscovering Joy's. The sun set. Shadows clung to the trees lining the road to the manor. Moonlight dappled the path in soft silver, contrasting with the oppressive stillness that hung in the air. Each step toward the creaking wooden entrance sent chills up her spine. The manor stood grotesquely beautiful, its once bright facade now stained with the weight of time and sorrow. A chill prickled at her skin, a whisper intermingling with the rustling leaves. It felt like the house was breathing, watching. Inside, the atmosphere was thick with tension. Her old classmates shuffled through the parlor, smiles plastered on faces that didn't quite reach their eyes. Jake, the charming classmate from her past, flashed a grin as if it could brighten the room. "Welcome to the reunion," he called, his voice echoing hollowly. But there was an unsettling spark in his gaze. Why was he so eager? Why did it feel like a trap? The moment she sat down, the air shifted. Low whispers filled the corners of the room as if secrets were passing from one shadow to another. Children's laughter echoed in her mind, the lost innocence of her youth. Jessica tried to brush off the feeling, reminding herself she was here to reconnect, to rediscover herself outside motherhood. Yet, that creeping dread clasped at her throat. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that is happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let us continue. As soon as the chatter resumed, she felt a prickling at the nape of her neck. A note appeared on her chair, cryptic words that sent her heart racing. "Remember what you buried." Panic surged, squeezing her chest. Who was leaving these? Mind racing, she scanned the room, faces shifting under dim candlelight, haunted expressions flickering in the half-light. The atmosphere thickened, unspoken regrets spilling over. Old friendships cracked and splintered as accusations flew, betrayals long buried bubbling to the surface. Her thoughts spiraled back to Ethan. Is he all right? The text from 60 minutes ago felt like an eternity now. The room twisted tighter, and she felt prisoned by their shared pasts and haunted lives. As darkness fell, the once charming dinner dissolved, erupting into chaos. Voices rose, raw emotions unfurling like torn paper in the wind. Jessica's grip on the table tightened, a knot coiling in her stomach. Each revelation felt like thunder, the walls vibrating with buried guilt. The lights flickered, and with them, her composure. She turned to confront Jake, only to catch a glimpse of something menacing behind his eyes. Then, the power flickered out entirely, plunging them into an abyss of darkness. Murmurs echoed around her, fear rising. Jessica held her breath, reality warping in the silence. A whisper, soft and chilling, called her name from the shadows. She realized, with bone-deep terror, they were not alone. Panic gripped her like a vice as she wrestled with the growing understanding that something ancient clung to this place. Something tied not just to the house, but to them. Jessica's heart beats like a drum in her ears, and she felt utterly lost. How do you fight a darkness that feeds on fear and strife? As shadows danced and fear clawed painfully at her throat, the night deepened, and Jessica braced herself. This was only the beginning, and she had to uncover the truth lurking in Ashbourne Manor's depths before it swallowed her whole. Panic ignited in Jessica's chest, a wildfire spreading faster than her rational thoughts could catch up. The darkness felt like a shroud pressing down on her, suffocating and oppressive. Around her, whispers intensified, a collective murmur of fear that swirled in the void. The ghostly cold seeped into her bones. Where was Ethan? Ethan, she shouted, her voice trembling and swallowed by the blackness. Silence answered, thick and heavy. The flicker of the last candle had exposed a layer of raw dread that gripped everyone. Their eyes widened, shadows shifting like figures in a nightmare. Is he okay? Jake's voice broke through the noise, uncertain yet strident. Where's the light? He fumbled in front of him. The sound of his chair scraping against the floor echoed like a wailing specter in the night. Stop it! Someone near the back shouted. This is ridiculous. We should leave. No, we can't. Another voice pierced through the confusion, cold and clammy, chilling Jessica to her core. We're not allowed to leave. A shiver raced up her spine. Not allowed. Jessica's heart thundered, panic adding a bitter twist to her pulse. They needed to get out. A sense of urgency swirled in her gut, drowned by a suffocating terror. Suddenly, a chilling laugh erupted from the darkness, deep and malevolent. It tumbled unbidden, slithering into their minds, reaching for their fears with clammy fingers. One by one, faces tightened in horror. The shimmering possibilities of escape faded, replaced by a suffocating grip of helplessness. Then, from the depths of the void, she felt something brush against her arm, a whisper of movement just above the skin. It froze her for a moment before she instinctively swatted it away. Did anyone else feel that? Someone croaked, trembling voice quivering. The laughter echoed again, higher, more mocking. You can't run from your past from me. The voice wrapped around Jessica like an icy shroud. Pinning her in place, the sudden flicker of light brought the room back for a heartbeat. It illuminated horrified faces fixated on one point. Jessica turned to the source, and there stood a figure cloaked in shadows, eyes glinting like shards of ice. A wave of recognition washed over her, sickening and surreal. It couldn't be. Lily? She breathed, struggling against the haze of denial. No way was this the girl who vanished a decade ago, the girl they had lost during that fateful camping trip. How is this possible? Someone gasped, stepping back, revealing a trickle of moonlight as it surged briefly through the broken windows. A curse, the figure whispered, voice crystalline and haunting. You buried it with me. The night is hungry, and it won't let you go until it's fed. Jessica's breath caught in her throat. The memories rushed back, frantic and blurred, the guilt, the fear, the shame of that fateful night. With each recollection, a piece of her broke again. But what in God's name did the rest of them have to do with this? With a clap, darkness swallowed them again, a palpable force. The laughter echoed crazy and wild, a symphony of horror. See, you're still afraid. This is just beginning. The banquet of sins calls, and you're all invited. Jessica felt the heat of a ghostly presence behind her, desperation clawing at her sanity. They had unleashed something unnatural, a lingering specter that hungered for more. The invitation was never just for dinner. A scream erupted, shattering the moment. But was it hers? She stumbled forward, adrenaline spurring her legs, and collided with someone. Panic swelled, and she fought to breathe, seeing shadows peel away from her. In the chaotic spiral, a thought broke through her, fear, raw and urgent. Ethan. The name slipped through her lips, desperate, a plea rising from the depths of her fear. Her instinct was clear. She had to find him, to protect him from whatever darkness lurked so close. As shadows coiled and tightened around her, something worse lingered in the air, a seed of dread that told her this was far from over. The hour of reckoning approached, and Jessica had no choice but to confront the return of her past before it consumed them all. But what if the truth was more horrifying than she dared to imagine? Jessica's heart raced as she fought through the chaos. The darkness pressed in, but she couldn't let it swallow her whole. Ethan, she called again, her voice cutting through the clammy air. She couldn't let him be alone in this nightmare. As terror clawed at her throat, she turned toward the sound of rushing feet. Ethan, where are you? The laughter danced around her, weaving through the shadows. It felt alive, a mocking reminder of their past sins. It filled the air with a sour taste, a terror that she could almost choke on. Jessica stumbled, her fingers brushing against something cold, a discarded chair. She grasped it for support as she lurched forward, desperate to escape the laugh of the ghost. Where were the others? Jake's panicked voice faded into the dark, his fear palpable as it mingled with hers. We need to stick together, he shouted, but the echo of his words splintered into multiple directions, making his voice seem distant, lost, and then she heard a soft whimper of familiar sound. Ethan. She spun around, trying to pinpoint where it came from. A flicker of light, another candle igniting somewhere in the void. It barely pierced the heavy darkness, but enough for her to catch a glimpse of a terrified face. Jess? The voice was feeble, trembling. Ethan. She stumbled toward him, the shadows clawing at her back. Thank God. But as they came together, the candle flickered again, and she froze. The figure of Lily loomed closer this time, eyes fixed on Ethan, a sickening curl to her lips. You shouldn't have come back, Lily hissed, the voice dripping with an unsettling sweetness. He'll never be yours again, stay away from him. Jessica shouted, adrenaline surging as icy fingers of dread skittered up her spine. Why? He's already mine, Lily laughed, the sound stretching into a high-pitched wail that reverberated through the cramped space. Shadows writhed, twisting around her, feeding off her fear. Ethan took a step back, terror glistening in his eyes. What does she mean? But before Jessica could answer, a freeze gripped the air. The temperature dropped, and a darkness surged, threatening to pull her under. Don't you see? Lily's voice echoed. You were all part of it. You buried me there, and now we feast together. A horrified gasp broke the tension from the group. Someone shouted, What do you mean we? The realization buzzed in the air like static. Jessica felt her stomach churn. No, this isn't about them. This is about you. She screamed, her voice raw, untamed. We didn't choose this. The shadows intensified, closing in. Seething whispers claimed their thoughts. Each person wrestled a wavering truth, an unspoken guilt. A creeping suspicion slithered into her mind, pulling at her resolve. Was this nightmare a punishment? A reckoning for something they'd done? Suddenly, the candle lights flared back into being, bursting like firework sparks. Time froze, illuminating the vulnerable faces around her. Jessica met each gaze, one by one, and felt the weight of their collective sins swell. Run, she yelled, but before anyone could move, the ground shuddered. A low rumbling crawled beneath their feet, and with the sound came the laughter, a horrific, guttural throaty sound that echoed their fear. Who will be the first course? Lily's voice floated through, delighting in chaos, as the walls around them began to shift and twist. What was happening? The room felt like it wanted to swallow them whole, as dark faces emerged from every corner, just beyond the flickering light, looming and waiting. Ethan! Jessica screamed, clutching his arm. She could feel the pulsing dread echo through their heartbeats, each rhythm matching the seismic tremors beneath them. Jessica, help me! He cried, and she pulled him close, but the shadows narrowed swiftly like predators encircling their prey. Jessica felt her mind being tugged between the past and the present, reality bleeding into nightmares. In that moment, she understood, what if they weren't just trapped by the room? What if the true horror was the darkness within themselves? The shadows crested, threatening to engulf them completely. And then in a flash, a scream shattered the chaos. Get out! But the room began to close in, and Jessica's heart pounded. The sinister truth was clawing its way free, and they were running out of time. If they didn't figure out how to confront their own dark histories, they might just be left to dine with the cursed forever. As she stood there, rooted in fear, an unsettling thought crept in. When the truth surfaced, what would it turn them into? And just as that realization washed over her, the lights flickered again, stretching the shadows, casting them into the unknown. Jessica's feet barely touched the ground as she pulled Ethan closer, the shadows swirling around them like a dark miasma, hungry and relentless. We can't let her win, she shouted, but her voice trembled, uncertainty gnawing at her. The laughed promises of Lily echoed, intertwining with their past, a dissonant symphony of terror. Where do we go? Ethan's voice was laced with panic. The walls of the room seemed to shift, contracting ever so slightly, closing off their escape. Shadows crested over them, undulating as if alive, hungry for warmth. Just back. Jessica managed to push out, her mind racing. The others were scattered, lost within the oppressive darkness. We have to find the others. But how? With every flicker of candlelight, the swirling mass of spirits returned, faces blurred by fear and distorted in grief. She could feel them all staring, drawing strength from the looming emptiness. Jake, she called, desperation lacing her voice. "Can you hear me?" Silence, heavy and suffocating, blanketed the air. A sliver of light caught her eye there. A tiny glimmer flickered in the distance, too far to reach, but close enough to promise hope. Instinctively, she took off, dragging Ethan with her, dodging the tendrils of shadow reaching out to snatch them back. "Don't look back," she said firmly, as her heartbeat surged violently, drumming in her ears. "Just keep moving." They dashed through the darkness, the air thick with dread. Behind them, Lily's laughter rang out, mocking their efforts, her voice a heavy fog rolling in to engulf them once more. Another flicker. An outline appeared to form ahead, a group huddled together. Relief skated across Jessica's chest. "There. Let us go." Ethan stumbled, nearly colliding with her as they reached the others. "Guys, we have to stay together. We have to confront this." He looked at their terrified faces, drawing courage from their shared fear. "Where did she go?" Jake questioned, eyes darting nervously, scanning the room. "What the hell is happening?" It's about us." Jessica gasped, finally understanding. "We can't keep running from what we did. We buried her, and now she's back for revenge." "What are you talking about?" Jake blurted, but the flickering light illuminated their faces, revealing mirrors of guilt and horror. An internal battle raged among them, remnants of their past sullying their hearts, deepening the shadows creeping around them. "We need to face this together." Jessica's voice was firm, the truth spilling out like an unguarded wound. "If we're all tied to this, we can't let Lily control us. We have to break this curse." But just as the words left her mouth, an ominous chill swept through the air, snuffing out their makeshift sanctuary of light. Just like that, hope flared and dimmed, swallowed by darkness. The weight of their unconfessed sins pressed down heavier than the shadows, wrapping around them with uninvited intimacy. "Look!" Ethan's eyes widened. A crack appeared on the wall behind them, an inky pulse flickering like a heart, growing larger. "Get away from it!" Jessica cried as panic surged anew. But it was too late. Glimmers of light started to seep through, but they weren't just candle flames. They were faces of those they thought long gone, drawn forward, whispering horrible truths that refracted through the air. And then they heard it, a chorus of hushed voices, a dark harmony, repeating their names over and over like an ominous chant. Jessica's breath caught in her throat. What had they awakened? No, no, no. The shadows twisted tighter, constraining their movements, suffocating their will. In that moment, as reality shifted, she realized they were not just fighting for their lives, but for their very souls. Amidst the swelling darkness, the air grew electric with anticipation, an urge to break through the stifling dread. But what would they find on the other side? Jessica could feel her heart thudding like a war drum. Time was running out. Whatever lay hidden in the shadows was about to reveal itself, and with it, all their most buried truths. As they stood before the heartbeat of the darkness, she whispered, "Are we ready to confront it?" And even as the words formed, a part of her knew some horrors are better left undiscovered. But there was no turning back now. They had to face the darkness together or be consumed by it. But what unspeakable truths awaited them in the growing blackness? The darkness pulsed before them like a living thing, the air thick with dread. Jessica's gut twisted as the specter of regret screamed in her mind. Each heartbeat echoed louder, merging with the ominous chant that clawed at her sanity. "What if we can't?" Jake whimpered, his voice barely a whisper, eyes wide and glossy with fear. "Then we're already dead," Ethan shot back, teeth gritted. Pressure mounted as the room shifted around them, walls mutating as if they conspired against their escape. Jessica felt the shadows coil tighter, 1,000 unseen hands ready to drag them down to whatever fate awaited. "Listen," Jessica said urgently, breaking through the chorus with a voice steeped in command. "Every one of us has a piece of this story. We can't let her take control. We have to remember, and we have to forgive." But forgiveness was harder than it sounded. Memories flooded in, rushing like a flash flood. Lily's laughter during their last summer together, her vibrant smile now twisted into something shadowy, cruel. Jessica's throat tightened. She could still hear the screams, see them in the flickers of those familiar yet foreign faces that appeared through the crack in the wall. They weren't just shadows. They were echoes of the past, angry and maligned. "They want us to confess," Jessica murmured, dread pooling in her stomach. This is a trap. We can't. She'll twist it against us. Suddenly, a low growl echoed from the widening crack, a guttural sound that sent chills crawling across Jessica's skin. Run! Jake yelled, breaking the spell of fear. But neither movement nor breath came easily. It was as if the weight of their guilt bound them to the spot. Together, Ethan shouted, "We need to hold on to each other." Retreating 1T help. As they clutched each other, the darkness writhed, contradicting their collective resolve. The walls whispered back, relaying Lila's last, broken words. "You buried me, but you cannot bury the truth." "Focus on the truth," Jessica said fiercely, feeling hope slip through her fingers as if she was already being pulled into the maw of the abyss. "We can break her hold if we stand together." Chains of despair threatened to shackle their minds. But if she could keep their focus, just for a moment longer one by one, their memories flickered like the wavering flames that birthed their shadows. Jess recalled the last time they'd seen Lily, how they laughed over careless words, and how those careless words had sealed her fate. They had never apologized. "I'm sorry," Jessica cried into the void, voice trembling as the truth clawed to the surface. "I'm sorry for what we did. We didn't mean it. It was an accident." The crack pulsed rhythmically, a heartbeat, and the shadows recoiled, as if absorbing her words. For a brief second, a flicker of light sliced through the darkness. "Keep going," Ethan urged. "We need to be honest about everything." "I was scared," Jake blurted out. "I didn't want to be the one to push her away." As their confessions spilled out, the walls trembled. Faces drawn from the darkness paused, their eyes focusing, listening. "I wish I could take it back." Jessica's voice grew stronger. "It should have been me." She felt lighter, as if a weight began to lift, yet all around them, shadows sharpened, deepening in color, seething with rage. Suddenly, a piercing scream sliced through the air. It echoed with the voices of the lost, agony palpable. "No!" Jessica shouted, recoiling. The shadows converged, furious and insatiable, as if the very act of their confession had enraged the specter of Lily. The crack widened, revealing a dark maw that threatened to swallow them whole. The light they briefly glimpsed extinguished, leaving nothing but despair in its wake. "Hold on," Ethan shouted, gripping Jessica's wrist. But as the twisting darkness bared its teeth, they realized the shadows were not just taking, but feeding on their anguish. "Run!" Jessica screamed, leaping into the darkness, Ethan right behind her. But as the shadows leapt forward to consume them, she couldn't shake the feeling that they were running towards something far worse than what they left behind. What unseen horror awaited them deeper in the darkness? Would they be able to escape, or would they discover something that shattered their very souls? They plunged into the darkness, the air around them thick and oppressive. It felt alive, a swirling mass that encased them, choking the warmth from their bodies and plunging them into an icy grip of terror. The screams echoed ahead, mingled with frantic whispers that darted around them. Fiery and sharp, Jessica's heart pounded so fiercely against her ribcage, she feared it would split her open. "Where are we going?" she rasped, tumbling against Ethan in the shrouded blackness. "Just keep running," Ethan yelled back. The sound of his voice felt like a lifeline, but it barely broke the suffocating panic clamoring in her mind. The thud of feet upon worn wooden floors kept rhythm with their racing hearts. Light flickered from somewhere ahead, a ghostly shimmer that both beckoned and terrified. A din of laughter swirled around them, eerily joyous but underlined with a grim tone. "What is that?" Jake's voice trembled next to them. Jessica knew that laughter. It should belong to Lily, vibrant and echoing from those sun-drenched days by the lake. Now it was distorted, a sick mockery that only amplified their fear. "If we're here, she's here too," Jessica whispered, dread settling like lead in her gut. Ethan halted suddenly, gripping her shoulder. "It's a choice. We can face her or keep running. It's going to find us anyway." "Face her," Jessica shot back, the words harsh in the dark. "What if she really wants us to confess? What if this is another trap?" "We're already trapped," Jake's panicked voice cut through. "We have to choose. We can't hide forever." The laughter crescendoed, growing around them, enveloping them in an insidious embrace. Jessica closed her eyes against the temptation to succumb to despair. What if we confront our guilt? Maybe that's what she wants. "No." Ethan's voice was urgent. "It's twisted. The darkness feeds on our pain. You know that. But it was too late. The laughter had transformed into agonized cries, spiraling into grotesque wails of desperation that burrowed deep into their minds, coaxing forth the long-buried truths. A bright light flickered through the haze, illuminating a narrow corridor before them. "Let us go," Jessica shouted, her instinct driving her forward. They stumbled into the blinding light, collectively gasping as the morbid shadows curled back, clutching in frustration. They stood on a cracked tile floor, surrounded by pictures hanging askew, their glass casing splintered. The room was familiar. It was the old community hall where they had gathered all those years ago. The scent of stale coffee and regret washed over them, coaxing memories smothered under layers of shame to the surface. Lily, Jessica breathed, the name hanging heavily in the air. This was where we last saw her. Jake backed away, trembling as shadows crept along the edges of the room, eager for more pain. "Let us go. This place is cursed." "No," Ethan shouted, pressing forward. "We have to understand. This is where it all began." Suddenly, they were surrounded. Shadows coalesced into the faces they knew, anger and sorrow painted upon them. "You buried us," a voice hissed, a high-pitched twang echoing through the air, spiraling and suffocating. "You buried the truth." The raucous laughter erupted again, the room spinning as past mistakes twisted into a grotesque gallery. Certain images flashed Lily's smile, the broken promises, a final laugh, and then darkness. "I didn't mean it." Jessica's voice quivered, raw and vulnerable. "I wanted to protect her." "Protect her?" One shadow snapped back. "You destroyed her." As their confessions fell from trembling lips, like petals scattering in the wind, the darkness quaked violently. Light flickered, but instead of relief, it only deepened the shadows. They were drawing closer. "Stop!" Ethan yelled as the walls began to close in. "We can't." It felt like hands wrapped around Jessica's throat, squeezing tightly, blocking her voice. Panic clawed at her chest. She needed to scream, but could only muster the choking whisper, "Let us go." All at once, the shadows lunged forward, enraged by their truths. It felt like being swept away by a tidal wave of despair and regret, dragging them back into the black abyss. A single shadow flitted across the flickering light, and in that terrifying moment, Jessica caught a glimpse of a haunted face. It was Lily, eyes wide and filled with unspeakable sorrow. "Help me," Lily mouthed, as if she were drowning beneath a weight of darkness. Then, in a rush, the shadows surged forward, swallowing them whole. The scream echoed, an exquisite blend of rage and anguish, shaking the very essence of their beings. Will we awaken to a new truth, Jessica thought desperately, or will we succumb to the weight of our own sins? Before the darkness closed in, one thought surfaced: could confessions in this cursed hall lead them to salvation or ruin? The darkness engulfed them. Jessica felt like she was tethered to a nightmare, a swirling maelstrom of emotions twisting around her. Her throat tightened, her heart racing, every pulse screaming for release. Ethan and Jake were lost to her now. Their faces faded like the fleeting shadows, memories etched only in the depths of her terror. Where was the way out? The laughter had dimmed, replaced by agonizing whispers that clawed at her sanity. "Confess, confess," the words slithered through the air, oozing despair. They were everywhere, an accusation echoing off the walls. "Lily," Jessica whispered, her voice barely escaping her lips. The name hung there, cold and hollow. What had she done? The shadows shifted again, creeping into her mind, breaking through her defenses. Images flooded her thoughts, hazy memories of innocence twisted with the weight of guilt. Snapshots of Lily's face, once bright and unblemished, now marred by the burden of unspoken sins. Sudden warmth ignited from the distant light, flickering hungrily. "There!" she cried, desperation blending her hope with madness. She lunged toward the light, gripping Ethan's arm as they rushed together. "Stay tight," Ethan barked, his voice sharp against the encroaching darkness. "Don't let go," screamed Jake. They bolted down the corridor, each step more frantic than the last. But the shadows twisted and writhed, forming tendrils reaching for them, a living entity that wanted to pull them back into the despair they had fled. "Run!" Jessica shouted, each word bursting from her like the last remnant of air in her lungs as they neared the shimmering light. Something cold grazed Jessica's ankle, and she stumbled, falling hard onto the tile. The contact sent shockwaves of panic through her. Shadows lurked like wolves, a ravenous glint in their eyes. She skidded forward, gasping. "Help!" Jake yelled, but the shadows were faster, dragging him back into the abyss. "Jessica! Jake!" Instinct propelled her forward, but Ethan held on to her, eyes wide with fear. "We can't lose him. We have to fight." "No," he shouted. "We can't fight. This place feeds on us. We need to find Lily." "Lily?" Jessica's breath hitched, confusion battling against desperation. What can she do? She didn't have to wait long. The flickering light morphed into a doorway, tantalizingly close yet treacherously high. Just beyond it, something stirred, a silhouette, shrouded in the luminescence. Jessica felt the air shift, a force beyond herself summoning them closer. "Face your past, Jess," the figure beckoned softly, voice drenched in sorrow. "Only in truth can you be free." She hesitated. The weight of regret threatened to crush her. She felt Jake's cries still echoing, the shadows writhing like snakes at her feet. A surge of determination ignited, pinning guilt against her heart. "What if it isn't a way out?" she murmured, panic clawing up her throat. "Do you want freedom?" the figure urged, taking a step closer. The shadows paused, as if enthralled by the struggle between hope and fear. "Then you must reclaim her." With a shaky breath, Jessica nodded. Rushing past Ethan, she flung herself into the light, forcing the whispers into silence. The warm glow enveloped her, filling the cracks in her heart with fleeting hope. But just as she crossed the threshold, the floor beneath her gave way, and she plunged into the depths of darkness once more. From above, she heard Ethan's frantic voice, echoing through despair. "Jessica, no!" Pain exploded through her body as she landed in a chasm of shadows, a suffocating silence creeping in. The darkness twisted, merging into a suffocating embrace, and the air grew thick with sorrow and secrecy, the secret of Lily and their pasts. Would she truly reclaim anything from those shadows, or had she only drawn in deeper with her choice? In the blackness, a familiar laughter rippled, cruel and sweet, mocking her terrible decision. What awaited her in this twisted reality beyond the light? The echoes of their past mistakes lingered in the air, daring her to confront the unspeakable horror looming just beyond her reach. Was there a way to salvage their souls, or would they remain trapped, forever bound by guilt? And as she grasped for clarity in the panic, the laughter faded into chilling silence, whispering, "Welcome back." Jessica gasped as she hit the ground, the impact rattling her thoughts. The shadows coiled around her like serpents, their whispers growing louder, drowning out her panic. The cold seeped into her bones, stealing her strength. "Where am I?" she questioned, but the darkness had no answers. The flicker of movement caught her eye. Beyond the swirling black, a figure emerged, Lily. Jessica's heart raced. Was this a vision or a trick of the shadows? The girl stood there, impossibly serene, bathed in an ethereal glow that contrasted the gloom drowning Jessica. "Help me." Lily's voice floated to her, fragile yet commanding. "Face it, Jess." But as the plea echoed, it twisted diabolically, morphing into laughter that slithered through the air. Shadows morphed and twisted, creating a swirling vortex of despair around Jessica. She could hear Ethan's cries, faint and distant, chained to the darkness. A surge of guilt struck her. She hadn't protected him when she had the chance. With every ounce of resolve, Jessica lunged toward Lily. "I'm coming," she shouted, desperation fueling her movement. But the closer she got, the further Lily seemed to drift away. The shadows lashed out, snatching at her ankles, trying to pull her back. "Don't abandon us," a voice pleaded Jake's. Fear thickened the air around her, the weight of his despair pressing down. "Let him go?" Jessica screamed, her voice echoing in the cavernous space. The shadows paused, then hissed, the temperature dropping as a chilling silence fell. "Only if you choose," Lily replied, her tone eerily sweetened, her eyes glinting. "Would you sacrifice one to save yourself?" Jessica's mind raced. The choice laid bare before her felt insurmountable. "No," she rasped, shaking her head as if to ward off the thoughts. But the indecision lingered like a shrouded figure watching, waiting for her to falter. "Think about it," the shadows chanted. You can join him in oblivion or let him drown alone in this world. The silence wrapped around Jessica, nearly suffocating. What did it mean to love someone? Was love a shield or a shackle? She felt the power of guilt coursing through her. If she had been there, would they have been safe? Slow realization dawned within this darkness. Her past choices echoed louder than any whispers could. Enough! She shouted into the void, the anger rising like a tide. I want to be your puppet. With that, Jessica pushed back against the shadows, summoning every ounce of strength, every forgotten memory and painful regret, weaving them into a barrier. The shadows writhed, screeching, as if her defiance struck a nerve. In that moment, she felt it a connection. The darkness watered the seed of her betrayal, but fueled their fight against it. Jess, please. Jake's voice shattered the dark, more desperate than before, pulling her focus. Before she could think, she lunged once more, stretching toward Lily. As she reached, she felt a hand on her wrist, a pull, then a jolt. The shadows burned at her flesh, inflamed with rage. Suddenly, the shadows released their grip, unraveling like a frayed thread. Jessica stumbled forward, breaking through a thick curtain of darkness. She collided with something solid, the coolness piercing her skin, and her vision adjusted. She found herself in a dimly lit room, surrounded by familiar faces, people she once knew, shrouded in indistinguishable expressions. Welcome back, they greeted in sync, their voices icy and hollow. Each smile felt predatory, every reasonable face twisted with betrayal and resentment. In horror, Jessica's body froze, her blood running cold. This was not the sanctuary she had hoped for. It was a gathering of their sins. They were all here, in this horrific reunion, staring at her like she was the one who had cursed them. Lily? She called, panic threading through her voice, desperately searching the shadows for her friend. But there was no response, just the sound of laughter echoing in the room, a sickening chorus that seemed to consume the very air around her. What have I done? She whispered, dread clawing at her chest. And then, as if sensing her dread, their laughter intensified, filling the space with an overwhelming pressure. The walls danced with shadows as she turned, the room twisting and shifting, the faces blending into a cacophony of terror. Each one contained a fragment of her past, each a mirror reflecting hidden truths she had long buried. Is this my end, or just the beginning? She murmured, the weight of dread embedding her in place. Just then, a darkness thicker than the rest wrapped around her, and she felt herself being pulled backward, back to the abyss she thought she had escaped. Desperation clawed at her throat again. No, but the weight set deeper, and as the faces dissolved into shadows, she thought she caught sight of Jake struggling, reaching. The darkness swallowed her scream, the laughter now a haunting melody. Welcome to the family reunion, Jessica, we've been waiting. The room closed in around Jessica, the laughter echoing like a death knell. The walls pulsed with a malevolent rhythm, echoing her heart's frantic beat. Shadows writhed, undulating and snapping like hungry serpents. She felt a suffocating pressure, as if the very air conspired against her. Let me go? She choked out, fighting against the darkness's grip. But the faces leaned closer, their smiles sinister, eyes glinting with a hunger only she could understand. You cannot escape this, one whispered, the voice layered with tones of anger and betrayal. You brought us here, Jess. You fed us your fears. No, I didn't mean to. She protested, her voice trembling. But in this haunting reunion, the truth burned like acid in her throat. She had chosen to walk away, to deny the warmth of their memories. Each step you took was like a breadcrumb leading us closer. Another face hissed, fading in and out of clarity. You left us to rot in your past. Images flooded her mind each moment when she had turned away, each friend lost to her selfishness. The shadows pressed closer, merging with the familiar faces, redesigning them into grotesque parodies of what they once were. Each face was a revelation of guilt, a pinprick lancing through her already shattered heart. Shut up, she screamed, flailing against their cold, clammy grasp. But no matter how hard she fought, the shadows only tightened their hold. She was trembling all over now, her breath hitching as terror clawed its way up her spine. Do you hear the whispers? Jake's familiar voice pierced the cacophony, his face becoming clear for just a moment. But his expression was one of revulsion, a mirror reflecting the horror within her. "This is your doing, Jess. You walked away." "No. I tried to come back," she sobbed, tears streaming down her face as she realized the painful truth. What Jake said stung with clarity. She had fled, choosing a path of ignorance. "I didn't want this." "But what doesn't matter now?" Another voice chimed in, deep and menacing, as shadows danced like flames around them. "You'll always be part of the darkness you created." As she stood enveloped in despair, a battle raged within her. Should she relent and accept the darkness? Flee? Fight? Just then, she caught Lily's faint silhouette in the chaos. "Lily!" she cried out, her voice breaking. If Lily was here, she had to be a way out, a means to reclaim what she had lost. "Help me." Lily's form flickered, the glow almost extinguished by the consuming shadows. "Trust yourself, Jess. Find your light." In that moment, Jessica felt a flicker of warmth in her chest. Memories of laughter flooded back, moments of joy she had tucked away, moments etched deep into her soul. She focused on those memories, fostering them like a flame in a storm. As she did, the shadows shrieked, their cries echoing like banshees mourning the loss of their prey. With renewed resolve, she thrust her hands outward, forcing the warmth to erupt from her core. "You want to take this? You want to take me?" The shadows recoiled, hissing as if the light burned them. The faces twisted in pain and anger, their unity fracturing under her defiance. Caught between light and dark, Jessica pushed harder, the warmth blossoming into a brilliant radiance. But just as the light began to consume the darkness, a chill swept through the room. The laughter returned with a vengeance, taunting her. "You think you can escape? You're just giving us more power." An earthquake-like tremor shook the ground beneath her, and the walls around her began to crack. No, no, no. Panic flooded her as the shadows not only resisted but began to envelop her again, drawing her back as the brightness threatened to crumble. In that disintegrating reality, Jake's voice shattered the momentary calm. "You must choose, Jessica. Fight or surrender." The decision hung in the air, palpable, the weight of her past, and the hope of her future colliding in the darkest moment. She could feel the darkness wrapping around her heart, yet the flicker of light from within urged her on. "Please don't leave me," Lily's faint whisper danced. Through the chaos, a reminder of everything she stood to lose, the very fabric of the room began to wrap around her in a vice of shadows. The pressure gave way to an overwhelming sensation of impending doom. Would she shatter and fade into the depths, or would she break free of the abyss? The remnants of faces loomed closer, growing more grotesque as their laughter morphed into something nightmarish. "Join us, Jessica. Always." And just as the darkness seemed intent on pulling her under for good, her eyes caught sight of a small glimmer. Was it real, or just another illusion? But there was no time. It was now or never. "Fight!" she screamed, her last shred of conviction igniting. The shadows hissed, closing in, and the laughter crescendoed, ready to consume her. She had to decide, before the darkness claimed everything she had ever loved, what awaited her on the other side of that divide. And then, before she could grasp the glimmer, everything turned to black once more. Jessica's breath came in ragged gasps as she fell into the oppressive blackness once more, yet something inside was different. The weight of the darkness around her still pressed heavy, but nestled within was a flicker of resolve that burned brighter than before. She was done running. "Face it," she shouted into the void, her voice steady, rippling through the stillness as if shaking the shadows themselves. "I will not be your prisoner." The response was a low growl, but she held her ground, mentally constructing all the moments she had pushed away, happy memories of laughter and friendship intermingled with the bitter taste of guilt. Each recollection became a building block, a fragile step towards rebirth. "Lily, I'm sorry. I see it now." The words tumbled forth, raw and unfiltered. "We were scared. I was scared. I wanted to hide from the truth because I thought it would protect you. But it didn't." She paused, grasping the air like desperately seeking warmth. "You were my friend, and I abandoned you. We all did." As if her words were a spell, the darkness around her responded, first with a twitch, then a tremor, and finally, a wretched shriek filled the void. The shadowy forms surrounding her stilled, quivering as if caught in the muscle of her confession. Confess. A twisted voice sneered. You think this will absolve you? You think we'll forgive? No. Jessica felt the surge igniting within her, her heart a drum echoing with strength. You're wrong. Your darkness has fed on my fear for too long. You are not the measure of who I am. She surged forward, forcing her heart as fire to the surface. Tendrils of light blossomed from her chest, illuminating the space with the warmth of understanding and love. In that moment, the darkness recoiled, twisting away from her radiance like mist evaporating under sunlight. Do you see? Lily's voice shimmered through the chaos, glimmering with hope. You are not alone. We can stand together. Reach for me. Gathering everyone's essence, their laughter, their tears, their shared stories, Jessica forged a connection with the flickering figures just beyond the veil. Jake, Ethan, and the others stood tall around her, their frightened faces tempered with determination. They all knew her truth, her pain was not hers alone, it was theirs. A collective burden unbound, transformed into strength. Join me. Be part of the light, she called. They stepped forward, hands clasping, breathing life into a force that pulsed against the scorned shadows. Power surged through the air, and suddenly the darkness writhed and shrieked. Each scream was a twisted blend of inklings lost and knots untied, their grip fading. You cannot, the light swelled, bursting through the cracks of despair. Jessica focused her vision on the figure of Lily, her radiant face receiving the shimmering energy like a promise fulfilled. Together, they took one final step, hearts beating as a single entity unified by guilt, remorse, and ultimate forgiveness. As one, they shouted into the dark, "We are the truth. We will rise." The shadows erupted in a blinding flash of light that enveloped them. Jessica felt herself being drawn upward, barreled through a tunnel of vibrant color. Memories cascaded around her like petals in a storm. The warmth of friendship coiled protectively through her mind, casting off the thick chains of regret until, at last, she erupted into a world alight with hope. With a gasp, she found herself back in Ashbourne Manor, surrounded by the crackling ambience of candlelight. The oppressive weight of doom evaporated like morning mist under the sun. She stood there, trembling but whole, her heart echoing with freedom. Around her, whispers transformed into laughter, old friends, their faces illuminated with new life, celebrating the moment of awakening. Jake smiled, his earlier fear replaced by relief, and her sweet Ethan rushed to her side, eyes wide with admiration. "Mom, you did it," he cheered, wrapping his little arms around her waist, bringing bright joy after the darkness. "I didn't do it alone," she whispered, looking up to see the fleeting shadow of Lily fading into tranquility, her eyes sparkling with gratitude. The reunion had not been just a gathering of past pains. It was a chance to embrace the truth, to unpack their burdens, and finally be freed. As they step away from Ashbourne Manor, a sense of lightness filled the air, the night sky above twinkling with stars that seemed to wink knowingly at their transformation. No longer would they be shackled by their past. They had turned the curse into a promise for tomorrow. "Let us go home," Jessica said softly, holding Ethan's hand tightly, ready to build the future anew. This was a beginning. Don't leave just yet. You need to subscribe now so you don't miss out on more thrilling stories like this one. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and let your voice be heard. And I want to hear from you. Flood that comments section with your reactions and theories about the ending. What do you think they'll face next? Don't wait even one more second to share this amazing conclusion with at least 5 friends who need to see it. Show your support, because only true fans understand the importance of building our community.